So Eric O'Neill joins the studio. His book is called Gray Day, My Undercover Mission to Expose America's First Cyber Spy. And if you, Eric's a local guy, went to Gonzaga High School, went to Auburn, went to GW Law School, still lives in the area. And if you ever saw the movie Breach, first of all, if you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, you're a stupid person.
The movie is probably, I'm guessing the movie's probably close to 15 years old.
Yeah, it was 2007.
Okay.
Does it still hold up when you watch it?
Oh,
I think
holds
it does.
up.
It really does.
And Eric's character, or the actor that plays Eric, is it Ryan Felipe or Philippe?
Ryan Phillippe.
Phillippe, I had it wrong. Ryan Phillippe plays Eric, and of course Chris Cooper plays Robert Hanssen, the most notorious.
Would you have been
spy.
bitter if it was like Billy Bob
US
Thornton?
Yeah, it's got to be an ego booster for dreamy Ryan Phillippe, or however you pronounce it.
He just told you how it's pronounced.
Yeah, Ryan Phillippe.
Phillippe.
But to be, like he said, you don't want to be Billy Bob Thornton or somebody hurt. They brought in like a dreamboat to play you.
Yeah,
that's solid.
It looked good when people would, for years, people would Google me. They'd watch the movie and Google me, and then they'd see pictures of Ryan Phillippe.
Right.
He made me look good.
Now, you got into the FBI. You were counterterrorism, counterintelligence, and then you
Remind me of the case, though. You got to remind me and give people a primer, Jason.
About Robert Hanssen?
Yeah, just
I'm gonna let him explain.
Yeah.
But and you got into. I'm guessing you were probably in your mid to late 20s when they asked you to kind of infiltrate his inner circle, and you talk about it all, and you couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
But in the film, there's a lot of fictional part, Hollywood elements. But talk about your reaction when your boss said you're going to be working with Robert Hanssen.
Absolutely. So the difference between the film and the book first, the way I like to explain it is the movie Breach is a movie that was made about me.
Mm-hmm.
The book is my story. So the real facts are in the book. The movie is amazing, and it still holds up because it's all about
how you got into things.
Yeah, exactly. But also about how espionage has evolved throughout all these years. But to go to that first story, which is actually the start of the book, my boss shows up at my house on a Sunday morning, and this is a supervisory special agent, Gene McClellan, who runs the entire team of ghosts. I was an FBI ghost, so I was for the entire time I was in the FBI, I was undercover. I never came out of cover once.
That's what an undercover guy's called, a ghost?
In the FBI, yeah.
How old are you?
I was 26.
Okay.
When this case
Did
broke.
you feel silly? Like, did you feel like that's like so awesome that you
like,
were
I'm a stud.
FBI?
I did, but the problem is I couldn't tell anybody.
He lied to his wife all the time.
Yeah, I lied to my wife.
In-laws, he lied to everybody.
He's like cakes every day.
No, it's not A1. A1's the biggest liar here.
In my early 20s, out at, when I was going out, I mean, back then you actually went to a bar and you met girls, right? I couldn't tell them what I did. I couldn't say, I'm a super secret FBI who catches terrorists all day. I mean, that would have been great, but no, I had to say stupid things like, I'm a geopolitical analyst for the State Department. And they'd be like, well, who's next?
Right.
Did you ever tell them you were Tom Ruin, like this guy did, or that you're Paul Quantrill?
I would start lying because they were telling me you have to lie. So I said, why am I lying down? I was like, I'm a doctor.
Right.
So McClellan pulls up to your house.
Yeah, he pulls up to my house and he calls me.
Yep.
And he wakes me up. This is before kids. So it's like 8 o'clock. We could still sleep in. And he says, I'd like to talk to you. I said, okay, let me get dressed. 7. I was never off. So to be called in on a Sunday meant one of the bad guys was moving. He said, no, you don't have to come downtown. Just come outside. I'm parked in front of your place. I'm like, and I thought I was going to get arrested. I thought, see what happens
What do
is.
you think? You think you did something wrong?
Sometimes, because I work counter intel, the Russians will figure out who you are. I had a code name. I wasn't even known in the FBI as Eric O'Neill. I had a code name that we used. And I can say all this, and I'm not going to get arrested because the FBI said I could say this in the book. And sometimes what will happen is particularly the Russians, they'll learn who they are. They peel you back, and they'll do the modern version is called swatting. Mm-hmm. They'll send over fake information, and we know the Russians are great at fake information. And suddenly, your intel group thinks, oh, this guy might be a traitor. We've just got some information from a source overseas, and so they roll you up, and it's really embarrassing, and now you can't operate. So I walked out of my apartment thinking, FBI agents were going to be there with handcuffs, and it's just Gene sitting in his car grinning because he knows that he's just completely thrown me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I get in the car with him, and he looks at me and he says, have you ever heard of a guy named Robert Hanssen?
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't. I hadn't because I married an East German. And when I proposed to Juliana, I went into the office and I told everybody, hey, I just proposed to this girl. She's amazing. We've been dating for a while, and we're gonna get married. And she's from Germany and all international and cute and everything. And there was like the stone face from my team
"Whoa."
leader. He's like, did you fill out the memo? I was like, memo? Apparently, you have to ask the FBI permission to propose
My
father.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, because what had happened is in New York, like back in the day, a couple of FBI agents had married into the mob and didn't know it until like another task force
Right.
came and arrested the father-in-law. So I'm, they security clearance while they investigated my wife.
Right.
And so I never worked Hanssen. I never ghosted him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know him, which was perfect because he didn't know me. And he said, I want you to investigate.
Because he worked in your same department? Like, where did he work?
So at this point in his career, he had some problems.
Uh-huh.
He had a lot of problems with anyone who pushed him or challenged him.
Yeah.
And he had an issue with a woman who was a subordinate who challenged something he said, and she wouldn't back down, and he kind of had to throw her to the ground. You can't get fired in government. It's like impossible.
Even
So
if you
you
throw
just-
a woman to the ground.
Even maybe today, but back
Yeah.
then. So he just got shuffled off to the State Department until he served out his 25 years and he had mandatory retirement. So he was somebody else's problem.
By
So
the
he
way,
was a
how good was
liaison.
the casting for Chris Cooper? Because I never met, obviously, the Robert Hanssen
Yeah.
that you follow, but
Was that
it seemed like he
perfect?
did a
It
great
was
job.
perfect. He did a wonderful job. Now,
the guy
he
ever
never
s-
got to meet Hansen, so he
Right.
was using me. He was like, walk like Hansen, talk like Hansen.
Right.
What's his Chicago accent like? And I said, I can't do a Chicago accent. He's like, I can.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I guess you can. But yeah, he was really good. And so I didn't know Hansen. He didn't know me. And they were bringing him back to headquarters, and they created a mousetrap. They created a whole new division that had never been in the FBI before called Information Assurance, which today we call cybersecurity.
Gotcha.
So they took the worst spy in U.S. history, the first cyber spy, and they put him in charge of building cybersecurity for the FBI. And then the FBI looks around and they said, we need someone who understands how to catch a spy, but knows how to turn on a computer. And there was literally one guy in the FBI.
That's
that was me.
unbelievable. How
Yeah.
long were they on to him?
They were
Before
on to
they-
him. Oh, they learned about him in December of 2000. They had me in that office by the end of December, and we caught him by February.
Why was he the
That was
worst?
quick.
Why was he the worst?
So the secrets he gave up were some of the most damaging in history. He gave up our entire plan for a nuclear war, for where we'd fire, what we'd
Seems
do, our
pretty
continuity of government
Yeah.
plan. Multiple operations overseas that were these decade-long operations, spy
And
operations.
Is this the stuff where he was like leaving envelopes, in
Spy
the
report.
park or whatever?
Yeah, so it's called a drop or a
Yeah.
dead drop. So
Yeah.
he would, back in the old days, he would steal secrets. And what made him innovative is he would actually steal from computer systems when these other tired spies are still like pulling out paper.
Uh-huh.
And he would save stuff to
his-
floppy disks.
Right.
Right, because we were going back in time, right?
Right.
We caught him before he'd go to thumb drives. But and he would leave them under a footbridge in Foxstone Park in Vienna, Virginia.
Right. It's right next to West 10th Tee box.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so bridge in the middle of the park, which
Yep.
is a great spot to stand on the bridge, just like you're on a walk, and look around and make sure no one's there.
Right.
And he'd slide the package under the bridge, and then he would put a piece of tape on the Foxstone Park sign that would tell a Russian intelligence officer just driving out of the embassy on a country drive. He'd drive by and see it and say, oh, they're secrets.
Right.
Uh-huh.
The package is there.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he'd pick up the package, and then he'd leave $50,000 at an auditorium under
And
a platform.
cash.
Yeah, cash somewhere else.
And he got about, the book says about $1.5 million.
About $1.5 million.
He could have charged so much more.
He could have charged billions for the damage he did was in the billions. We're still trying to correct it. He but he only took what he could spend.
Right.
Like to put his kids through school, to pay off that mortgage payment, stuff he could spend in cash and no one would know. He was smart.
So, and like I mentioned,
But
in the
you
book-
said he was stupid, though. The world's worst. Why was he the world's worst?
The world's worst in the amount of damage he did. The
Okay,
world's
I got
best in the fact that he got away for it for 22 years.
Oh, he
So-
was doing it for that long.
Yeah.
he did it forever. So, like I mentioned, there's some fictional elements in the movie.
Right.
For example, in the movie, he's kind of onto you and he suspects something. He takes you out into the middle of the park and fires bullets at you, but that never happened.
That never happened in real
So
life.
he
But
never
one-
suspected you. You don't believe.
But the one thing, one thing he did do was you took his Palm Pilot,
Yes.
okay, and that happened,
That's how I got him.
right? And that was That's a very intense, riveting scene in the film. So talk about that film, or that part of the film, and then how nervous were you?
Yeah,
By the
so
way, it's in the book Gray Day.
Great Day.
Right,
Great Day's the
right,
name of the
yeah.
book.
So
Here it is. For the cameras, it's Great Day.
yeah, I'll tell all these stories in Gray Day, and I also wrote, even though it's a nonfiction, I wrote it as a first-person narrative. So you're with me, you feel what I felt, and that was probably the riskiest moment of my life. It's probably the one time in my life I was 100% sure I was about to die, and
Because he'd have to kill you?
because the story was we needed to figure out the information for how we could catch him. Earlier in the case, I had determined that he was the spy we've been after for over 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
This spy, this elusive spy that we had called Gray Suit. And so we're after this guy named Gray Suit. We had gone, and every spy that you go after you think might be Gray Suit, you give a derivative name. So Hanssen's code name was Gray Day, which is the title of the book. And I figured out, he is Gray Suit. This is the guy we want. So Gray Day is our number one spy. But then they're like, okay, you got to figure out when he's going to make a drop because we know it's coming.
Spy report.
Yeah, and he had this he kept it in his left back pocket, and every time he sat down, he put it in his bag, and every time he stood up, he put it right back in his back pocket. That's a routine, and we use routines to protect information. Like, you put your keys on the hook when you come in out of the house, and you know they're going to be there when you leave, right? So I said, we got to get this away from him. So what we did is we had an assistant director come in and announce, slap a 20 on his desk and say, you and me, the shooting range. And I bet you that 20, 5 targets out of 5, I'm going to beat you.
Okay.
And this other, and the section chief, Ramon Garcia was his name. So Rich Garcia, who was my pal in the FBI, comes in too. And they bring him down to shoot. And he's angry and he doesn't want to go.
I don't want to do it.
But the assistant director says, this wasn't a request. Now remember how he doesn't like being challenged? He can't throw the assistant director to the ground. So he stumbles off after him and forgets to grab that Palm Pilot. I'm super excited.
Were you surprised that he forgot it?
I was surprised as hell. We had tried this like 3 other times. Like Ryan Phillippe in the movie Breach does it first time every time.
Yeah.
Me, not so much. It took a little bit of extra work. And he forgets this thing, and I go in the bag, and there it is.
What's your window of time? Do you think
have
you
like
have in your
well,
mind?
we figured he'd be down there shooting for like a half hour.
Yeah.
Card and a floppy disk. They all have data. I hand it off to the tech team, and they start copying it. And he's encrypted all these things. So we can't break it, but they figure we'll just copy it and break it later. As they're copying, I get a text on, we had pagers back then.
Yeah.
And
He's
it
coming
says,
back.
oh, really? Wow. But it says, don't know what happened, out of pocket, coming to you. So apparently he fired off 2 shots.
Right.
And then he holstered his gun, didn't say a word, and just left.
Just rolled.
Yeah, just up to the office. I knew I had about 9 minutes because that's how long it took to get from the sub-basement all the way up to 9930, room 9930 on the 9th floor, if you made the elevators right on time.
Right.
So I'm waiting, and I'm freaking out, and then finally they give it to me, and they say, run. So run up to the office, and I've got like a cool 2 minutes, right? So I saunter in there. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I broke this case. I'm the spy hunter. I'm the man. I got it. You know, I'm 26. I'm full of myself. I get in his office and I realize there are 4 pockets in this bag. They're all the same. And I pulled out 3 devices, and for the life of me, I can't remember.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
I just completely screwed up.
But he remembers.
Oh,
He
yeah.
remembers where everything is.
He was the most meticulous dude in the world.
Yeah.
He could scan a room. Like he could come in the studio and take a look and then leave and like write where every little bobblehead is.
I don't know, man.
And
There are
who
a
it
lot
was.
of tchotchkes in here.
But
It
this
would
is
be
the
a
guy,
challenge.
right?
Yeah.
Like photographic memory that
Yeah.
way. If I had it wrong, even the floppy disk wasn't leaning against the Palm Pilot wrong, I'm done.
He would have known it. Yeah.
And so as I'm sitting there trying to figure this out, I hear him coming through the door of the main office. I just dropped all 3 and zipped everything up and ran back to my desk and put the best poker face I've ever had and never will, right here. And he comes in the office, glares at me, and then goes in his office, and I hear zip. And I was thinking to myself,
You're dead.
I'm dead. I should be, why am I still sitting here? I got to run. Like, I should be down the hall.
Would he have shot you? How would he have killed you?
He would have probably shot me.
Right
Yeah.
there. Right there in the
Why
office.
not? I mean, if I'm right, and I was, right? We know I'm right, and everything we needed to get him was on that Palm Pilot. He's facing the death penalty multiple times. So what's one more person?
Yeah,
And
what
he's
if-
an angry dude.
Yeah.
And
Does
plus,
he carry a gun?
he carried. Yeah, he always was armed, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were gonna have a shootout. It was just like I'd get plugged. And but I knew that if he came out and I wasn't sitting there, case was over.
Because he would.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll just arrest him on the spot. Why can't you do that?
Because we needed him to make that last drop. We needed him to actually...
Even though you had all the stuff on the Palm Pilot.
The Palm Pilot told us when and where he would make the last drop. And it also... It also linked him to the spy he was in the 80s because we got letters.
Yeah.
So his spy name was Ramon Garcia, right? His sexy spy
right.
name. When we got the Palm Pilot, there were letters on there signed Ramon Garcia. So we were able to link him to his old spying, but we actually had to have him make a drop so we could get him for espionage, not just conspiracy to
catch
commit.
him red-handed.
We had to catch him red-handed. So I had to keep him in the case and get him to make that drop.
So
Otherwise,
you luckily put it in the right spots?
I was just lucky, or divine intervention,
Or
you know,
he
I got to
didn't
go to
actually
church.
notice, maybe?
No way. I just got it right.
Wow.
I just got it right. Otherwise, he would have never made that drop. And he goes on that bridge and he makes that drop and he got arrested right there.
Did you ever?
And you never saw him. I'm sorry.
Eric
gotta come
O'Neill's
back.
with us. We'll come
Don't go
back with
anywhere.
more. The book is Gray Day, My Undercover Mission to Expose America's First Cyber Spy. We'll get more of that story. And I kind of want to know your take on whether I should care if people are spying on my phone and things like that.
Absolutely.
Because some people say you should, and then some people like Eric and I are like, go ahead and spy on me. It's no big deal. We'll come back with more with Eric O'Neill.
So getting back to where did we leave it off?
Basically, right before the drop.
Right before the drop.
Yeah.
And you had to catch him in the act because that was the espionage and that would be the death penalty, essentially, or life in prison.
So we had to catch him in the act because he had destroyed American counterintelligence. He had systematically, over 2 decades, I mean, he started spying for the Soviet Union, and he spied so long, he ended up spying for the Russian Federation, like what we now call Russia. And, I mean, that's forever. That's a whole lifetime of spying. And during that time, he had turned our ability to protect the country into Swiss cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And so we needed enough leverage, which was the death penalty, in order to get him to not really punish him, which everyone wanted to do, but to get him to tell us everything he'd done so we could fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing is, after years and years of everything fixed, and then fixing the FBI and our ability to protect the country against spies and terrorists, he became, in a way, the modern architect of the FBI.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Were you scared or fearful every time you were in a room with him?
In the beginning, I was nervous because I didn't want to screw up, and then I fell into the role. I really bought into the role. I felt like I was part of the role. I felt like I had gained my ground. I was getting better at it, and then I stopped being nervous. I stopped being scared, and when I started to win is when I started getting aggressive, and that was the turning point. I had to stop and in so many things. I had to stop reacting to him and start acting to win.
Right. Would you ever tell him to F off?
I did, yeah, a couple times. There were times where, and that's
Like
where
you could
things
get into
started
it
to
with him.
change.
Yeah.
I would get into it with him. In the beginning, I was very subservient and okay, boss, and I'll help you with this, and I wasn't getting any of his respect. And it's when, I started being a little bit of an. He started to kind of smirk and respect
You gained
me.
his respect there.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
and
this
you
case-
had to, I'm sorry, you had to lie to your wife all the time.
All the time.
I mean, your wife, Juliana, and I can't remember the actress who played her in the movie.
Caroline DeVerna.
You literally had to lie to her all the time.
All the time. Every day.
Every single day.
And, it wasn't that I was just working in the office. Then I would have to go to law school. And then often after class, after 2 hours at classes at GW, sometimes 3 or 4, I'd go back to the office late at night, and we'd have to do searches, and I'd have to be there for chain of
You
custody.
probably thought you were running around.
I was afraid, and actually
Right?
told Kate Alleman
Probably
was
thought he was getting after it.
was the special agent who was handling me. Her job was to make sure I didn't screw up and to give me my marching orders. And I told her at one point, I said, after this is all done, you and I are going out to dinner with Juliana, and you're going to tell her that I was really doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, she definitely thought you were doing something on
Did
the
this
side.
case, it was amazing. Made a movie. It gave you a whole different career, right? It's been amazing for you. But did it ruin you in that job? Like expose you?
Yeah,
Did it shut down your FBI career or whatever it was?
So yes and no. No, because the one thing that you will not see in any of the early documents, the indictment, the affidavit for arrest, or any of the court cases is my name. It was protected.
You were protected.
because I was still an undercover operative.
Okay.
Now, if he hadn't pled guilty, I would have had to testify, and that would have blown my cover. But it did ruin me because I had gone from doing surveillance on the street, hunting people on the street, to a face-to-face undercover operation that, I mean, most FBI agents spend their entire career wishing they could do and never do.
And you stumble into it how many years into your career?
This is my 5th year of my career.
You peaked at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Kind
So
of, right?
I peaked at the beginning, and then I was like, this is the only thing I ever want to do. I don't want to, I mean, this is all I want to do. And I knew that if I did that, I would not be married.
Right.
Like that, and then so I decided to leave and pursue the law career.
Right.
And, everything went from there.
So just fast forward, because I know you at the end of the book you address some of these things. What should we be concerned about in like modern day? Like, should EB and I be worried about our cell phones and people spying on it?
I think you do. I mean, you guys are celebrities, and so you do have to worry about that.
Let's just look at my pictures. What do I care?
Or think about what's on your cell phone.
They have links to your accounts.
It is literally your second brain. It has links to every bank
All your
account.
credit
It
card
has
stuff.
all your apps. It has all this information.
It's AWOD's only brain. Sorry, I apologize.
I've met him earlier. He's a very nice guy. But
Nice, but stupid.
we put so much on the cell phone. I mean, you're protecting yourself. Your mobile is like #1 priority, and being careful with it. Now the devices have gotten very good. Everything's
what about guys
encrypted.
Like Cakes are all over the adult content. Like,
that
that's-
you have
that's
to
classic
be
projection.
very
right?
careful.
Cakes.
So let me put it another way. You know how people like to download torrents, free movies and
Of
stuff.
Valdez.
Yeah.
Right. So
Jesus.
we do a lot of
is
analysis
Matt
in
Valdez.
cybersecurity. The #1 vector for malware, malicious
Yeah.
software, that's the
Yeah.
stuff that takes over your whole computer, was downloaded torrents of Game of Thrones. So people didn't want to buy HBO,
really?
so they're downloading it for free.
They
Yeah.
know it's the most popular thing everyone's going
Right.
to steal.
Remember, nothing is free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm getting screwed when I I don't necessarily download, but I show games like for free or fights for free.
Right.
I know for a fact they're all in my business.
Absolutely. Listen, we got 3 minutes left.
All right.
2.5. Getting back to Hanssen to kind of close
Right.
it out and wrap it all up. He's in Supermax.
Yes.
And that's in Florence,
Florence, Colorado.
Colorado. That's where Richard Reed is.
But
the
isn't that overkill? Because he's not
Where
dangerous.
Ted Kaczynski is. The
So-
So all the
Unabomber.
high-profile guys.
All
are.
the bad guys.
The
are there,
Boston
yeah.
Marathon guy.
He still knows too much. So Supermax isolates you. You can't talk to guards. You can't talk to anyone. So there's no one that he could give information to then.
He could still
Continue
hurt,
spying.
He could still hurt the country.
Yeah.
Really?
But when you go to Supermax, you talked about this. They show you the tops of the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah,
when
that's
you
all
first
he
go,
gets to see.
and that's the last time you see it.
So you walk into Supermax, and the last thing you see is one of the most beautiful sights in the
Right.
country, and then you get 1 hour a day to look up at the sky in a courtyard,
all
and
you
you
see.
know that if you could just see right over that wall, you could see those mountains again,
Right.
and you'll never see
They
it.
basically take the joy out of your life.
Yeah.
There's no joy.
It's psychologically destroys
Yeah,
you.
it's,
Do you think that
it's
he's?
built to numb you.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I guess it's impossible. They probably don't make it possible to commit suicide. But he tried to.
It's
attempt it.
impossible. They take like everything from taking your shoelaces and belt to the entire room is like poured concrete.
you could starve
no
yourself
hard
to death.
try, but they would just intravenously feed you.
Do you think
Yeah.
that you'll ever be face to face with him?
I've made the request. I'm trying to do it. I wanted it to be the last chapter of the book, which is going to be a conversation with Hanssen,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't get in. I even called his lawyer, and he like laughed at me.
Right.
I'm trying to not bother his family. I've been very careful and guarded about that. So I'm checking with the Department of Justice and FBI and looking for angles to get in.
What-
but I want to get in there.
What were
and
the
see him.
similarities between he and Ames? Because they're so often linked.
So if you ask Hansen, who thought Ames was a joke,
Mm-hmm.
not many. Hansen was extremely meticulous and careful. Ames was not so careful, but he had excuses for how he would go on these shopping sprees and stuff. The similarities are that they were both huge narcissists.
Mm-hmm.
They both believe they were so much better than they are, and most
So much
trusted
smarter.
insiders have that weakness.
Yeah.
How many do you think are still running around? Like
There are plenty of spies. I mean,
within the FBI? Like, do you think
in the
they're still?
FBI,
What about
probably.
What about the girl the Russian girl was just arrested and sentenced?
Yeah, Butina.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of spy, sure. And where she's trying is to recruit people.
Yeah.
She's actually a Russian spy trying to recruit people, although she claims she's not. But a trusted insider, people who are in agencies, there are always going to be spies.
Yeah.
At Hansen's level, he's like the Tom Brady of spies.
Right.
You're never going to beat his record. Because the FBI's made it impossible.
Yeah.
And you're the
Because he
David
taught
Tyree that
them.
took him down.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Hey,
All right,
great
the book's
stuff.
Gray Day. People should check it out by Eric O'Neill, My Undercover Mission to Expose America's First Cyber Spy. Always fun when
Thank
you
you,
join
Eric.
us in studio.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. JP's
Awesome
off to Puerto
stuff.
Rico in,
Yep.
I don't know, 12, 24
Buy
hours.
the book, everybody. Gray Day. I'm
All
reading
right.
this on the plane
Guys,
today.
out here for